And welcome back to Museum Diaries. Thank you for joining us. Jax has been on me about talking and being more available to people. So I'm going to try to do that today. And this is kind of a free flow, so Jax will be able to intersperse questions as she decides.
Yes, once in a while you're going to hear me in the background.
Yes. So I thought that what we're going to do today is I'm just going to show you a little portion of our life. So if you want to go ahead and pan the camera so they can see the boxes of stuff and, you know, all the stuff that we have to go through. And there's just thousands and thousands of pages, not just my work and Jack's work, but Jake's work, which we have tens of thousands of manuscript pages of his that we have to post.
And these boxes aren't it. There's more.
No, these aren't even, yeah. So we're just going to take some of this stuff today, and I'm going to read you excerpts. I don't know what's in them. So we're just going to kind of take it away. Today is March 11th, 2020. The coronavirus has been sweeping the world. It looks like a pandemic. And
I know, with this recent lockdown of Italy, that's something I never expected out of this virus.
Right. They say this is worse than SARS. I am not concerned about it in that I'm not going to live my life in a constant state of paranoia thinking that, you know, this is going to do me in. Because I'm at that place in my own life where I'm ready to go whenever. And, you know, you can't stop death, right? So you just kind of roll with the punches in life. And I pray for all those people that might be struck by the virus, that still have, you know, the lives ahead of them, or that want to be alive. You know, I just pray that all the good forces be there for them and grant them healing and strength and perseverance, and all the care givers that are out there. Our prayers go to them as well, that they're safe, their families are safe. So this is a new thing. As an artist, I've been trying to go through my head, how am I going to depict this time in history, in herstory? It's a pretty crazy time. You know, I grew up with the legends of the Black Plague and Legionnaire's disease, and now we've got something that's pandemic in our generation, and that's terrifying for my loved ones, you know, the ones that are especially at high risk, like my daughter, Juliet, my mother, my brother, Dan, my brother, Rick, my sister-in-law, Lydia, my other relatives, like Roy in the back house, and then Jackie's mom, which is like a second mother to me, and her father.
My parents.
Yes. So in all the family members, you know, of our community. So our prayers are out there for all of you all. And live the best life that you can right now. Share your love and forgive others that have hurt you. We don't know how much longer we're going to be around, or they're going to be around. But I think now is the time in our lives that we as a people, as part of the human race, that we reckon with this thing called love. And that love is the greatest balm and the greatest force on the planet. And we need to hold on to that force and share it and give it away, you know. It's really, really key at this point in the history and herstory of our planet, that we respond to one another, not with fear or prejudice, that we let go of those things and we stand together as one people, because we are one people. All right, so with all that said, so let's start looking at what this stuff is. Okay, so in here we have, oh my goodness, this is when I was very young. This is when I was in my 20s. And this was one of my original portfolios, which actors and writers used to have back in the old days. and it gives you, different dimensions of your history, what you do for a career, that kind of thing. So that's kind of interesting. And then, of course, some negative publicity. Oh, this was an old competition. This was one of the ones that I won from America. And I'll go ahead and read one of my old poems to you. Okay, so let's see. I'll do, Oh Lord, oh Lord, can't you save this poor soul? This old penitentiary time has beaten the dog's tooth and tail out of this old hound dog child. Oh Lord, it just bees these deep soul hurtin' blues. And the man in blue been over me with the stick so long, I be thinking the dirt be a good place to be. Oh Lord, will I be leaving this mother after 13-4, or will I get an early release out in a pine box? Oh Lord, pardon us all. Okay, so the next thing that we have it's prayers and some things that I did for the Catholic diocese, and this was published. This was about AIDS, question and answers. Is a condom necessary during oral sex? So I basically give you my rundown of POCAN, People of Color Against AIDS Network, which I was trained for, and used to do my seminars and lectures in the prison. And so these are some awards and different things that I received. And this was about how they had to rebuild the prison walls after I had escaped from the prison. And
now let's go back to that. You escaped from prison after serving how much time?
I don't know, maybe 8-10 years, I can't remember.
Okay, and how long were you out before you went back in?
Around 10 days, I think, not long.
Okay.
And then this is some writings for The Abolitionist, which I was involved in and was one of the writers and editors. This is Sister Paulina. This is you probably heard of this pet partnership program. It's world famous. I was one of the original 7 trainers that was taught the method of how to work with these dogs so that they could open doorknobs, alert for seizures. It was pretty groundbreaking stuff. So this is basically just some article that came out in some newspaper about it. And it's an incredible program. And those dogs were taken from basically death row. They were shelter dogs. And they were given another chance at life. And guess what? The majority just took to it. I mean, they wanted to serve.
Were the dogs given to any inmate, or
no,
how did you select the inmates for the dog?
We were interviewed first by Sister Quinlan, Paulina, and she had started the program, and she selected 7 of us that were going to work with these animals that she got from the death row, the shelter. And we would just use her methods, and there were some other trainers that came from the community, 2 other women, that would train us to work with these animals. And I couldn't stay with the program. I think I stayed maybe 6 to 8 months. But to be honest with you, I would cry too much having been separated from the animals. I bond really hard with
Why would you get
animals.
separated?
Well, because after you train them, they have to go to a home. And then you get another animal, and then you train that one. So anyway, the women that have worked in the program have just been phenomenal and have saved lives. And our dogs have traveled all over the world to save lives. You know, it just goes to show you things that you think should be thrown out have a lot of use, and maybe you haven't even tapped into those things. I'm very big on saving things, use things. I try to recycle as much as possible. I remember that when I was growing up as a little girl, there were women that would save the styrofoam from their meats. They would wash them. I didn't do that. But yeah, that was years and years and years ago when I remember them doing the recycling. So yeah, recycling is really huge, and I think that we as a people need to not be so apt to throw things away, not be so apt to throw away clothing. You know, we can share it, we can pass it on.
But at the same time, not acquire so much.
And not acquire so much. And that's one of the reasons.
Not to overindulge.
Right. And what we're talking about today is, as you can see, this is primarily work.
Well, Artemis wants to be near you.
Oh, baby.
Hi, Artemis. She's so
Isn't
beautiful.
she wonderful? She is so precious. Oh, she is so precious.
She's one of our rescues.
Yes, she is.
She was a stray feral that would come around the house, and we took her in.
We sure did. There was this one day, and she was so hungry, and I had a McDonald's hamburger at the time. So I had a couple of bites, and she was looking at me, eyeing it. So I thought, I wonder if she'll eat it. So I took some of the meat, threw it to her, because she still wouldn't come up to a human being, because she was feral. And she scoured that, just scarfed it up. And I thought, I wonder if she'll eat the whole hamburger, because she seems so ravenous. So I literally tossed her the entire burger with the bread. She ate the entire thing. Well, then I told Jackie the story, and Jackie is like I am. We have, big hearts for animals especially. And we just, she said, this is our girl, so she started domesticating her somewhat. We don't want to over domesticate her because we want her to maintain her wildness and have that, freedom. So she's a free cat. We keep all of our animals, their shots and their grooming and so forth. But yeah, she's done really, really well. Okay, so on to the next box. Let's see. This is different poetry, it says. Let's see, I brought some glasses out here.
They're right here.
Oh, thank you. Oh, little Artemis. Oh, my baby. Oh, she is so precious. Oh, look at this little darling. Oh, my baby. Oh, I know, sweetness. She gets excited, so you can't overstimulate her because she'll want to bite you or scratch. So she really wants that. See, it's like she just puts her little paw. Yeah, she's so precious.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm just going to randomly select something. It may not be very good. There is the tired tragedy, the inconsolable anguish that continues to tear at the flesh of my spirit. There is that remainder of rootless hoping that can find no permanent ground. I've got to turn off the air. It interferes with our recording, that's why.
Start over.
Okay. There is a tired tragedy, the inconsolable anguish that continues to tear at the flesh of my spirit. There is that reminder of rootless hoping that can find no permanent ground. I feel perhaps all is empty and vain attempt. The stabbing cruelties, the tired ugliness of conflicts never resolved, ending, facing another sentence in hell, is not worth living through. Love is not enough. Love that lives in between the razor recriminations, the barbed barrages of blame and drunken bouts of trying to drown out the continual cacophony of contempt, leave me shaken and in dark surrender. The quest, the unflinching fidelity, that embraces the grand, endless belief that good triumphs is a derelict's delusions, impregnating only the lost orphans of desperate lives. Stupidly, foolishness, me with my heart in my hand out, stretched, offering it to him, as if it held any real value to anyone but me. I remain the somewhat dumbstruck idiot I was born into. I am no power, no strength, but mere legend whose own herstory has ground me into dust. I am at last finally dead. I died and now am in the nation of fools. I am dead. I at last am dead. D-E-A-D. Veronica, life over. All that remains is a stupid dance, so macabre that I will keep it hidden, and it will be my own sacred secret. I no longer rail, no scream, no sound now. Death is my only warmth and hearth. Over now. No more life, just final resignation. No more stupid turmoil or pain. I have at last died. Ah, let's celebrate. The trajectories of trauma are traitorous, tiring, and total. All right, that was kind of morose. Sorry about that. Record. The racing, the pacing, the eternal wasting eats me up with filthy spoon, devours my will from dusk till noon. I'm jumbled, puzzled pieces in a bag, each shape tattered, a misplaced slag. I threw these pieces into the box, swept from the minds lost and found, all just rotting on the cold, forgotten ground. 100 puzzles tossed in disarray, half of each picture lost in gray. Somehow I still spent decades in delirious attempt to force puzzle pieces into shapes all bent. The picture's not with symmetry or reasons rent. No, it's not me, it's just puzzle pieces free, lost and found, inside the grooves of sofa springs round. My life and mind have often been metaphoric pieces of puzzles from goodwill and bad will too, mostly not fitting and put together with clotted glue. If a puzzle's picture could ever be arranged from these misaligned shapes, scissors could only make fits with the disarranged, where curves would be sharpened angles and angles curves, a hodgepodge imagery would emerge. I no longer worry about not fitting in. My war scars are too large to hide the truth of where I've been. I am a simply complex chunk of human dough. Roll me out and with social needle sew. Patch me here and there and then let me be. While I'm not perfect, at least it's all me. I gather fun and amusement like others gather wealth. For me alone, I found my own mental health. It's not a tidy formula or recipe from a book. My guide to love and warmth are memories I took from lovers, friends, and gentle folk I've been blessed to meet along my way. The kindnesses of others are my riches every day. A random smile or bark from a dog, a lovely walk, a mile, or even a grunting hog, all coalesce and blend into a brew. I call it my soul's happiness, and from it I found you. This is what I wanted to share. See, we have some chain here. This is for one of the art pieces for the exhibit that we have. We're going to be doing an exhibit for the museum. It's not open to the public. It'll only be for art critics, and it'll be a one-day kind of situation. So this is for one of the projects, the prison projects. All right. The times are calmed by circumstance. Money never ceases to amaze me, its power to persuade, its balm to assuage, and its obscene necessity. Can't live with it, can't survive without it. A paper, a coin, an account balance. All of these intangibles, And still, like love, its force and controlling abilities take my breath away. Money, the ka-chink, its rapid lup 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 voice as it sings through the money counters. Lup 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 lup. Well, it certainly controls and defines a society, or rather this Western society. Money, the sweet breath of commerce, until it vanishes. And then the anguish moans and groans, loudly emitted from the bearers of empty wallets and purses. The volatile voices in vicious volume, rising to the pitch of violence, then the regret for having spent its last breath. Money, moolah, dough, bread, change, lettuce, cash, bucks, dollars, payola, bills, ka-chinks, Jeffersons, Lincolns, Washingtons, Franklins, Grants, feria, juice, sawbucks, fins, lucre, rolls, vig, weight, names for power. This, I wanted to find more of it, but this is all I can find right now. A host of medications our physicians introduced us to, mostly to our delight, such as codeine cough syrup. Heroin was not an acceptable product, yet only within the blues music scene and street junkies, although I have heard of a few stories of doctors and professionals which used their own supplies of narcotics. So I'm talking about the past, in the 80s. It was a time when High Times magazine, actually the 70s, when High Times magazine had expanded internationally. In Los Angeles, weed had mostly been excellent, like Acapulco Gold, Colombian, Mai Tai sticks. They were larger, not much larger than toothpicks, wrapped with very little weed. Then a thin slip of fibrous vegetable string was wrapped atop to hold the flower to the toothpick. It was ridiculously priced. However, I had firmly decided that if I would change this pricing, I would. Well, as it turned out, we kind of did. When we first began buying plastic and burlap bags of marijuana from Tijuana, Mexico, we had to pay the poor pesos to swim across the Mexican-American Channel, which separates our two countries. Of course, there were fences, perimeter walks by guards to catch any, quote, illegals They were equipped with spotlights and rifles, so the smugglers carrying the bags on their backs were risking a great deal, as we did, bringing marijuana from Mexico to the United States. And at some point, I'm going to talk about those incredible times and the stories of why I got involved in crime. You know, Jackie was saying today, you know, all your life you were involved in crime. And I explained to her it wasn't a choice. It wasn't as though I was given opportunities that said, oh, you know, you can go get a college degree and start a career.
Right. Given all the circumstances in your situation,
I just did the best I could with what I had and what I knew.
Right.
You know, so...
but, you know, for me, I find it fascinating because I was pretty sheltered growing up.
Oh, totally sheltered.
And to hear your stories and the crimes involved, I just...
Mostly white-collar crimes,
my jaw open,
not
like,
violence.
What? But, you know, amazing. And you've served a lot of time in prison, too. Yes, and it's one thing that I feel rehabilitated you was that coming out of the prison, you had stability in your life with the professor.
With Jake, yeah.
And then in Juliet, and you had your family support. Your mother was very supportive throughout your incarceration.
And so was my father, yes.
And after, and you never went back to crime life.
Right. Well, I never had to. You know, I had different choices. And although it seemed like, oh, I started college as 13 years old after the kidnapping, I didn't have the emotional makeup to sustain it. So although I was the youngest person in the state, going to college, Metro State University, that was a fact. But I didn't have the emotional strength to maintain it and to consider having a career. That never even occurred to me. I mean, it literally never occurred to me. My mother never sat me down and said, you know, I get all these degrees for a reason. It's not just purely educational. Well, though she never really made a career. but she had a hell of a lot of degrees and a lot of education. But I never had anyone sit me down and say, here is your plan, your financial plan for your life.
Your childhood it wasn't that stable.
No,
it wasn't stable enough.
No,
it was interrupted. And I'm saying this because my parents weren't educated in the U.S., let alone in Mexico.
Yeah.
They probably had a couple years of grade school, and that was it.
Yeah.
And my
But
brothers
all
and
their
sisters,
kids did
we
well.
all actually went
You
to
all
college.
did really well. Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with our support outside of home, because our parents didn't understand that concept of high school, college, degrees. They didn't understand that. But they knew it meant something to society here in America.
Right.
As far as, careers.
Mm-hmm.
So through the support systems that my brothers and sisters had around them at school is what motivated them and encouraged them to go in that direction.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
And that is something that you lacked, because you went into college in your teens, your scores were really high.
Right.
And your mom and dad had already divorced.
Right.
So that affected you. Every child that goes through a divorce, I think, impacts negatively.
Well, I had the cancer.
Yeah.
And when I was diagnosed about 13 and a half after the kidnapping, they told me I had to have a hysterectomy and a double mastectomy. So, I'm now at around 14, and I had already had some cancer treatments, and they said, I could never have children. And so in my mind, my young, stupid mind, I thought, well, I can have a child, before I have the cancer treatments done, So I went and had a child out of wedlock, and that's another story. But at any rate, we all do the best we can, I think, with what we have. And that's why it's so important that we encourage the people in our lives, whether they're our own offspring or family members, anybody that we can encourage to do something with their life and to let them know their life is valuable, and that opportunities do exist. Help them out where you can, because if it weren't for the help of countless wonderful people that I've met, that were volunteers in prison or worked in the prison, or some of them were even prisoners themselves, if it weren't for those wonderful loving hands of loving hearts, I would have, I'd probably be dead or on death row, but through the grace of God and love, that's why I can't stress love enough, love is huge. We each have to support the other human beings that come into our path and other living beings that come into our path. Not just human beings, but animals need our support too, and even insects need our support. I have a rule about insects, most of them that I find in my house, if they're gnarly, I have to say omane peme hong and goodbye. Some of them I'll catch and release. But my rule is basically, if you're in my house and you could get us sick, then you violated and trespassed. So I'm sorry for that, but it is the way it is. But we all need to respect life, period. And love is what respect is about, I think. It's loving others. What do you think, Jax?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I lean on scripture.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't want to say I'm going to love everybody, but the mentality of being neighborly with somebody, I think...
I'm just on the other side, this hurts.
I think that allows the other person to open up to you and reveal who they are. And then, you're not, I don't mingle with people that are going to lead me in the wrong direction. So, but love is important. Love is important. And that's the only way you're going to find any peace, is you can first reach that first stage of love. I think comes the openness, and how open are you, and how open are others, and how much are you willing to share, to help others, or just share.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times just the encouragement that we can give to another creature or human being. Just the encouragement, just to say, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to forgive yourself, is huge. And I don't want to forget that. It's not even about sharing material possessions necessarily. It's about
forgiving yourself, but not going back to the behaviors or the patterns that led you to the point where you feel like, I now have to forgive myself.
Right.
It's when you keep those behaviors repetitive, what's the point of forgiving yourself if you're going to keep doing it over and over again? You're not learning.
Well, I have to say that for me personally, that is one of my monsters that I have to face, is I still cannot forgive myself for my crime that sent me to prison.
But you have, okay.
I will never repeat it, but the
exactly, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is that,
I know, I still
and like
can't
I said,
forgive
you
myself
didn't
for
go back to a life of
Never,
crime
of
after
course
prison,
not.
and that
No.
says a lot. That says a lot. That's what you knew.
I feel though that there are some mistakes that we make in life that are so profound, like my mistakes, that I wish that I could rise above that self-loathing, but I don't know. I just haven't been able to. It's just this demon that's on my back that, every day I feel bad about my crime that I went to prison for. It's
like you got some darkness that's still lingering in your mind there. Your past is kind of haunting you.
It is completely haunting me. Still, after all these years.
You know what I've done, and it helps me? I completely turned to God, and I got into His words, Scripture, and I found so much healing when you start to understand who you are.
Yeah.
Who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That spark that we all have, that connects us to humanity.
Yes.
That brings us to love.
Yes.
And to share. We're part of something bigger.
Yes, we are.
And unfortunately not everybody has that. Some people are just born wicked.
I don't think I was born wicked or anything
no,
like that.
not like that. But
it's almost like there's a broken record in my brain that keeps tormenting me, and it's so hard to forgive myself for my involvement with Bianchi, and it's a hard pill to swallow, because I rage against myself. It's like I can tell people, oh, I was in love with him and I made a mistake, he manipulated me, which was all true.
I see you.
But was I in love with him?
I see you as a victim of his.
Parts of me did love him. And it wasn't the murderous person. It was the human being that I saw. And that's what's so difficult, is that when you meet somebody that's done horrendous things and you don't see the horrendous things because you're not the victim, right? So you're meeting somebody and it's after the fact. And you don't see their crime, and what bothers me the most and what is so hard for me to forgive myself about is that I lost sight of his crimes, and I allowed myself to love him as a human being and the parts that I saw that were lovable. And I feel really bad for people that, we are in a society that condemns us for loving people that have done bad things. And I'm not saying that people that do bad things should be...
Crimophobia? Is that what you call it?
Crimophobia is what I call it, yeah. And it's a
Crimophobia.
phobia of people that have committed crimes. And one of the things that is hard for me to digest intellectually and spiritually is, how can I love a human being that has done horrendous acts when I know that their victims are suffering every day? That is what's so hard. And I know that God and Jesus how often are we supposed to
There's a part of you
someone?
that did love him as a human being, because he's a human being, he's a creation.
Exactly.
But okay, he didn't change his ways. It's not like he turned to Christ at some point. He kept repeating the murders.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
At the same time, you have to remember, we have to be equally yoked. You can't mingle with a serial killer, and think it's okay if you don't I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Unless you're there to preach the gospel to him every day and day out, and that's why you're spending time with him to get him to.
And I didn't do that.
To come to Christ.
I used to think that I could love him. I thought that I could love him and heal him. I didn't see him as a murderer. I mean, I saw him as a murderer later, once I became entrapped and everything. But initially, I didn't see him as that person. That's not the person that I was introduced to or met. So, you know, I was, believe it or not, I was pretty stupid and naive, you know, at 23. As hip and savvy as I would like to think I was really stupid.
I saw you, knowing what I know about you, your history, I saw you as a vulnerable woman.
I was.
And you were taken advantage of, unfortunately, by Bianchi, because he had already done what he did to you to at least 2 other women.
Right.
That we know
That's
of.
what the police told me.
But
I was the
he
third.
really worked you.
Yeah, he did. But then I have to take responsibility, and that's where the bitter pill is that I still am responsible despite, you know, you can say, well, someone lied to me and they manipulated me and blah, 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 but I cannot play that card because I feel that how can I not take responsibility when I'm a grown adult and I committed my crime?
Right.
And you know, all the parts to that crime that, you know, have not been out in the public domain that only the police know about, you know, that's a shameful part. That's the shameful part. Not that anyone else was injured or anything like that, but the police know what happened, and they're the only ones that know the truth.
Personally, Veronica, our justice system is screwed up.
I know it.
There's no reason why you should have spent 23 years in prison. You didn't even scratch the girl.
I know. But I did try to strangle her. Even though she didn't have to hospitalize, there were no scratches, you're right. But that's not the point. The point is
it all came out
that,
of bondage.
Yes,
bondage.
it doesn't matter. It does. I don't want to talk about that
Okay.
because as far as I'm concerned, I am the guilty party, not her. I am not going to cast aspersions against her. She was my victim, and she knows the truth, and I know the truth, and the police know the truth. The ones that told her to distort the truth, they know, and she knows the truth, and I know the truth.
What I was trying to say is, you serving 23 years,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't murder anybody. There's people that you would come into prison
Oh, yeah.
on murder charges.
Sure. And leave
before you.
Absolutely.
That's what I don't.
Without the remorse. That's what bothered me. That's what bothered me.
That is just, to me, it's twisted.
It is twisted. It is twisted. Well, we all know that the prison system is not the right way to go if we are to try to raise our civilization, our humanity, and I'm talking about world humanity. The prison system as we know it is not the way to go to help our societies emerge as healthier
The prison system,
individuals.
that's what's ruining our country. Because the family unit is now, it's
part of the problem.
It's endangered in a way.
It's part of
you
the
have so
problem.
many parents in prison.
Well, it's more than that.
Single parents.
What about all the guards? What about all the people that have to work in the criminal justice system? They are being victimized too, as far as I'm concerned. I've seen what happens to the people that are just regular people looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
This was the best job they could get to support their family, was working in a prison around people that have been convicted of felonies. And the hell that they would be put through, and they get polluted just like the prisoners get polluted by the inhumanity, by the lack of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes, for a lot of bitterness. And I saw people that were just normal, nice people who did time with me that were guards and worked in the prison system as more than guards, whether they were supervisors or whatever. And I saw them become as twisted and perverse as the inmates that were in there for the worst of crimes. That's pretty horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
These are family members. They're literally putting their psychological and emotional and spiritual health on the line by going into such a polluted environment. The whole system is polluted by the laws, by the way that we look at other human beings and judge them, rather than take into consideration all the other elements. And, I have to ask myself, I feel bad for the victims of crimes. I was a kidnapped victim for 2.5 years of my life. I've been a battered woman, and I could go on and on. I definitely feel for the victims. But my point is, would it have been healthy for me to have just been told, Veronica, all those men that raped you as a child, don't you want to see them locked up and their lives destroyed, and have them punished, and, get them raped every day like you were? And I would have to tell you, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want another human being to be inflicted with that? And if I have a society that tells me, oh, Veronica, that's fine. You can go ahead and put them in prisons and let them be raped by their neighbors and let them be exploited and hurt and beaten down because they raped you when you were a child. That mentality to me sucks, because why is it okay? It's not okay if they rape me, but yet it's okay if they get raped in prison. It's okay if, I think we should try to aspire towards something more enlightened than that. I think that we should say, first of all, this is another human being, and what they did was horrendous and wrong. Some of the people, and I hate to say this, but I believe it, some people I think are so damaged that the death penalty is probably the appropriate thing. However, not all people are so reprobate that they should be destroyed. I think that there are people that make mistakes, that are damaged, and if we can empower them with more knowledge and their own healing through work on them, like the work I did with Peace Between People, Alternatives to Violence, I saw that change lives of people that were rapists, people that were, they beat other women down and robbed them and lied and cheated. I've seen them change. Now, I'm not saying that I saw them, change like night and day, but I saw growth. And I think if we as a society could start embracing that we go not for raping other rapists and beating other people that beat up other people. I think that mentality is wrong. Why is it okay for me to beat someone up because someone else beat me up? That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. If I believe that violence is wrong, which I believe violence is mostly wrong, not all the time, because I think sometimes you have to self-protect, and sometimes, some of that self-protection has to do with the death penalty. And, there was a time I was against it, but I'm not against it anymore, because I've just my own life experiences, and, I've seen some of the people like Douglas Clark, the Sunset Slayer, who is a pathological liar, was cruel beyond anyone. I mean, he made Kenneth Bianchi look like a nice, average guy. This man was so cruel and such a liar, and did everything he could to destroy my life with my husband and my daughter. And he just, he didn't change, I wouldn't lie for him. And anyway, that's someone that I would definitely say should have the death penalty. And because some people, you leave them alone in the world, whether they're in prison or not, they're going to hurt other people. It doesn't matter that they're in prison. Because I see what Douglas Clark did to my husband and my daughter and to my life, and all the lies and the games that he played with the police, making false allegations against me that wasted a lot of, where they could have been pursuing real criminals.
Yeah, Douglas Clark, writing to you initially as a Marine,
as somebody, as a free person, and
as a person in the free world, probably having his attorney send you the letters
That's
from
exactly
the outside.
what he did. Yeah.
You didn't know he was in prison. Then he
had no
reveals
idea.
himself to you as Douglas Clark, the serial killer.
And wants me to lie for him.
And only because he found out about your involvement with Bianchi did he want to try and pursue you.
That was the only reason.
That is insane to me. Yeah,
Oh,
people
he
like
was-
that probably can't be rehabilitated.
I really don't see it. Because he was saying these lies about me. Okay, so my crime happened in 1980. He started writing me as someone else. And so there was nothing on the envelope that suggested he was a prisoner. He was Danny Clark, and he was in the military. And all the addresses, they were P.O. boxes, so there was nothing to do with prison. And he misled me to think he was a normal person. But it was all a scam, simply because I had been locked up on the death row in Sybil Brand right beside his co-defendant, Carol Bundy. So he thought that he could say to the courts, Compton lived right next to my co-defendant, Carol Bundy, and Carol Bundy admitted the truth that I'm innocent and she did all the murders by herself. And this was all fabrication on his part. But he construed this elaborate lie and thinking that it was his out. And when I resisted and didn't play the game, he pulled out full forces and told tons of lies against me. And
Horrific
kept me in
lies.
prison.
Yeah.
Kept me in prison. And what I realized is any human being, that means anybody out there in the community.
Had he not interfered with your life
Can be
like
a
that, you
victim.
would have
I
been
would have
free.
been out of
You would have
prison
been free
years and
because he
years
tried to
prior. Yes.
make Veronica look like a cannibal serial killer and who's into necrophilia. I mean, this guy
Well,
was really sick.
let's not repeat
You know?
all of the lies, but let's just say that his anger and rage, that he could lash out at me simply because I would not lie for him. And this is years and years and years and years later, after I didn't lie for him in his trial, that someone could hold that much anger about an innocent person. I was innocent. I had nothing to do with any of his shit. But that he could hold a resentment to me because I would not lie for him tells me he would lie against an officer. He would lie against the police. He would lie against a victim. He would lie against anyone, any human being.
I mean, he's got zero integrity.
Oh, no integrity at all. He is a human monster as far as I'm concerned. And so I reserve the death penalty for people like that.
Okay.
No doubt about it.